It was a dark and stormy night, the kind of night that sends shivers down your spine and makes you question every creak and whisper in your home. I had just moved into Blackwood Manor, an old and imposing mansion that had stood on the outskirts of town for centuries. Little did I know, my decision to live in that eerie place would lead to a night of terror that I would never forget. As I settled into my new bedroom, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The antique furniture, faded wallpaper, and dimly lit candles gave the room an eerie ambience. But it was the portrait on the wall that caught my attention, a portrait of a woman with cold, unfeeling eyes and a twisted smile. I dismissed my unease as mere nerves from the move and tried to get some rest. But sleep was elusive that night. I tossed and turned in my bed, and each time I closed my eyes, I heard faint whispers echoing through the hallway. I attributed it to the wind, but the whispers grew louder, and I could make out faint, mournful words. "Help me. Leave this place." The voice was hauntingly familiar, but I couldn't place it. I rose from my bed and followed the chilling sound down the darkened corridor, my heart pounding in my chest. The whispers led me to a hidden door, one that I had not noticed during my initial tour of the house. As I cautiously pushed open the door, a frigid gust of wind rushed through the opening, extinguishing the candles in the hallway. I fumbled for a flashlight and shone it into the room, revealing a chamber covered in cobwebs and dust. At the center of the room stood a mirror, its surface cracked and cloudy. In the mirror's reflection, I saw her, the woman from the portrait. Her ghostly figure drifted toward me, her eyes filled with sorrow and longing. I stumbled back in terror, but there was no escape. She reached out from the mirror, her cold fingers closing around my wrist. "Help me," she whispered once more, her voice a mournful plea. I tried to pull away, but her grip was unyielding. The room grew colder, and I felt an otherworldly presence closing in around me. With a sudden burst of strength, I wrenched my wrist free and fled from the room, slamming the door shut behind me. As I collapsed onto my bed, the whispers faded, and an eerie silence descended upon Blackwood Manor. I realized then that I had unwittingly become a part of the mansion's dark history, and the restless spirit of the woman in the mirror would forever haunt my nights. From that night on, I couldn't escape the feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes following my every move. The mansion's chilling secrets were mine to bear, and I knew that I would never truly find peace within the walls of Blackwood Manor. It was a night of terror that would haunt me for the rest of my days, a night when I had glimpsed the restless souls that dwelled in the shadows of that accursed place. It was a moonless night, and the forest outside my cabin felt like a shadowy abyss. I had always heard the stories, the legends of the whispering woods, tales of eerie voices, ghostly apparitions, and a darkness that could drive a person mad. But I had never believed them until that night. I had retreated to the cabin to escape the stress of city life, seeking solace in the quiet of the woods. The cabin was isolated, nestled deep within the heart of the forest, with no neighbors for miles. It was the perfect place for solitude, or so I thought. As I sat by the crackling fire, the only source of light in the cabin, I heard it, a faint whisper, like the sigh of a ghost. I dismissed it as the wind rustling the leaves, but the whisper grew louder, more distinct. It was as if the forest itself had come alive with secrets it was yearning to share. Curiosity got the better of me, and I grabbed a lantern, deciding to investigate. I stepped onto the porch, and the moment my foot touched the forest floor, the whispering intensified. It was like a chorus of voices, each one vying for my attention. I followed the sound, winding my way deeper into the woods. The trees seemed to lean in, their branches forming gnarled fingers that pointed the way. The darkness closed in around me, and my lantern's feeble glow barely penetrated the thick blackness. That's when I saw them, apparitions, phantoms of the past, flickering among the trees. They wore old-fashioned clothing, their faces etched with sadness. They beckoned to me with spectral hands, their voices pleading for something I couldn't quite understand. Fear clutched at my heart, but I couldn't turn back. The whispers were relentless, pulling me further into the heart of the whispering woods. The air grew colder, and a sense of foreboding filled the night. Finally, I reached a clearing, and there, in the center, stood an ancient, gnarled oak tree. Its branches seemed to writhe like serpents, and from its trunk emanated the most haunting of whispers. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding. The whispers became clearer, and I finally understood their message. The voices were trapped, souls bound to this cursed forest, yearning for release. They begged me to help them find peace, to uncover the truth behind their torment. I knew then that I had stumbled upon a dark secret, a tragedy that had befallen these lost souls centuries ago. With trembling hands, I vowed to uncover the truth, to help them find the peace they so desperately sought. But as I turned to leave the whispering woods, I couldn't escape the feeling that they were still with me, their whispers echoing in my ears, a haunting reminder of the night I had ventured into the heart of darkness, a night I would never forget. On a moonless night, when the wind howled like a chorus of lost souls, I found myself standing before the rotting gates of the abandoned asylum. Its dark silhouette loomed against the stormy sky, a grim reminder of a past filled with suffering and despair. They said the asylum was haunted, that the tormented spirits of the patients who had once been imprisoned within its decaying walls still lingered there. I had scoffed at such tales, dismissing them as the product of overactive imaginations. But that night, as I stepped through those rusted gates, I would come to regret my skepticism. My flashlight flickered to life, casting eerie shadows on the shattered windows and crumbling facades. The air was thick with the scent of dampness and decay, and a feeling of dread settled over me like a suffocating shroud. I made my way through the labyrinthine hallways, the floorboards creaking beneath my feet, as if whispering secrets of the past. The asylum's history was a dark one, a place where the mentally ill had been subjected to unspeakable horrors in the name of treatment. As I explored further, I began to hear faint whispers, an eerie murmur that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. I followed the sound, my heart pounding in my chest, until I reached a door covered in peeling paint. With trembling hands, I pushed it open, revealing a room frozen in time. Tattered mattresses lined the floor, and the walls were adorned with the scribbles of the tormented. But it was the figure in the corner that sent a chill down my spine, a shadowy apparition with hollow eyes and a gaunt, skeletal frame. I stumbled back in horror, but there was no escape. The figure rose slowly, its movements jerky and unnatural. It reached out with spectral fingers, and I could feel its icy touch on my skin. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices pleading for release. In that moment, I understood. The asylum was a prison not only for the living, but for the dead as well, a purgatory of suffering and anguish. The spirits trapped within its walls yearned for freedom, for someone to uncover the truth of their torment and grant them peace. As I fled the asylum, the whispers followed me, their mournful cries echoing in my ears. I knew then that I had unwittingly become a part of the asylum's dark history, a witness to the horrors of the past. To this day, I can still hear those whispers, a haunting reminder of the night I ventured into the heart of the abandoned asylum, a night that would forever haunt my dreams and fill me with a sense of unease, knowing that some secrets are better left buried in the shadows. On a stormy, moonless night, with the rain pelting against my window like the desperate cries of lost souls, I found myself alone in my grandmother's old, creaky house. The wind howled through the ancient trees outside, setting an eerie backdrop to my uneasy night. I had always loved visiting my grandmother as a child, but her house had a way of filling me with an unshakable sense of dread. It was a place of forgotten memories, dusty corners, and the kind of silence that felt oppressive. As I wandered through the dimly lit hallway, my flashlight casting eerie shadows, my eyes fell upon a dusty shelf, and there it was, a porcelain doll, long forgotten and abandoned. Its glassy eyes seemed to follow me, and its once vibrant dress was now faded and frayed. I couldn't resist the urge to pick it up, even though a voice in the back of my mind told me not to. Its porcelain skin felt cold and lifeless in my hands, and as I examined it closer, I noticed something peculiar. Its eyes seemed to change, shifting from glassy blue to a sinister, blood-red hue. Suddenly, a bone-chilling laugh echoed through the hallway. I spun around, my heart pounding, but there was no one there. I tried to drop the doll, but my fingers wouldn't let go. It was as if it had become a part of me. The doll's laughter grew louder, more maniacal, and I realized it was coming from within my own mind. I stumbled back, my head filled with horrifying visions of the doll, its eyes glowing red, dancing on the edge of my bed, whispering dark secrets into my ear. As the night wore on, the doll's presence became increasingly malevolent. It would move on its own, appearing at the foot of my bed or on the windowsill, its eyes fixed on me with an unnerving intensity. It whispered tales of darkness and despair, of souls trapped in porcelain prisons, and it promised that I would be its next victim. Desperate to rid myself of this cursed doll, I ventured into the attic, where I had heard my grandmother kept old family relics. There, hidden among dusty trunks and forgotten mementos, I found an old family album. As I flipped through its pages, I came across a faded photograph of my grandmother as a child, holding the same doll I now possessed. In her eyes, I saw the same fear and desperation that I had come to know. The doll had haunted her as it was now haunting me. With trembling hands, I set the photograph and the doll ablaze, watching as they turned to ash. The laughter and whispers faded, and an eerie silence settled over the house. But as I lay in my bed that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that the doll's malevolent presence still lingered, that its sinister laughter would haunt my dreams for eternity. Some nightmares, it seemed, could never truly be banished, and I had learned that the past had a way of returning to claim its victims, even on the darkest of nights.